Pogacar.
Let's talk about it.
He wasn't happy. Run us through it.
So Pogacar indeed was not happy after today's intermediate sprint, and it goes back to how it started. You've got two teams that want something out of this, perhaps three teams, if you consider Jumbo-Visma a team that should still fight for this intermediate sprint, considering Vingegaard lost a significant amount of time on the last mountaintop finish. Now, the two teams that were fighting, plus Jorgensen from Movistar, were Demare's team with Gaudu and Pogacar. Now, Demare sprinting together with Gaudu. We know that they've had a bit of a troublesome history, as in Gaudu might have discussed a private quarrel with Demare openly in a chat lobby at some point this year, and it's not that great. The relationship
didn't want
there.
Demare to go to the TDF.
Yeah,
Cliff notes.
that's the summary.
Gaudu said, "Why are we sending? You're going to need the whole team to take him around France. He's going to, maybe finish outside the time limit. Well, everyone on my GC, I came fourth last year. And apparently Demare doesn't get in the lift with Gaudu." That's the Cliff Notes of the beef.
Thank you for the Cliff Notes of the beef. But this intermediate sprint started, and Pogacar knows that if Demare's right there next to him, with Gaudu on the other side next to him, he knows that Demare's also going to try and sprint and beat him at the intermediate sprint. But Demare opened up relatively early going into this intermediate sprint.
He jumped him.
Yeah, with Jorgensen on the other side of the road, also jumping relatively early.
Yep.
So two riders jumping early. On paper, you'd say, pretty good lead out for Gaudu and for Pogacar, right? But it's a limited road. So there was position maybe on the left side of Jorgensen, and at that point, there's still a gap on the right of Demare, in my personal opinion. And Pogacar says, I'm going to go on the right side of Demare, because if I have to go left, I need to either try and squeeze in between Demare and Jorgensen, or try and go the long way around him.
Because it's a right bend.
Exactly. So Pogacar chooses to go for the gap that at that point exists next to Demare. And when he's going past him, Demare is already closing the door. As in, the question now is, did Demare close the door when Pogacar was next to him or when he was coming up? From the front view, Demare looked back, saw Pogacar coming, and goes to the side, in my opinion.
Yep, and we'll run through, what we saw on screen. And then Pogacar has to stop. There's no space. And he's blocked. Gaudu then comes through the left-hand side. Jorgensen had gone too early. And Gaudu's able to take the 6 bonus seconds. Demare gently brakes or stops pedaling. Yep. And he rolls through for 4 seconds. Pog only takes 2. And we see afterwards, Pog, he turns around, he looks at Demare, he definitely says something to him. I don't know if in French, because in Pogacar's mother, she's a French teacher, but he says he doesn't speak French. Maybe he knows a word or two in French. He wasn't happy, that's clear, with Demare jumping on Zwift, onto the Zwift Hub 499, the best indoor smart trainer of 2023, voted by Bicycling Magazine. Gone are the days of 4-figure direct drive smart trainers, perfect for the winter, which seems to be here to stay. Someone told me that winter doesn't end on the 1st of March, so I'm learning new things every day. Thanks to Zwift for supporting the show, as always. And the question is, as you said, Benji, Demare, he knows what he's doing here. I know we are the sprint deviation police. I really don't have much of a problem with what Demare did, because his movement, first of all, it's around a right-hand bend. The gap is very small when Pogacar wants to jump into it. Jumping into a gap on the inside of a right-hand bend when someone's already sprinting and they're not far from the edge of the road is already a risk in itself. Mm-hmm. And Demare's movement, to me, is within the bounds of somebody sprinting, that they have to be allowed some lateral movement, that you can't do anything about it. And it's almost like Pogs just dived into a space that was always going to get closed. And I know Demare knew what he was doing as well. So,
yeah, that's the thing for me.
Yeah.
Demare looks back and sees Pogacar coming and then moves more to the right. And that's the factor for me that changes a lot here. Obviously, intent doesn't matter when it comes to the rules. It says if you go off your lane and endanger someone, there's also a rule that says obstruct, but if we start applying that to most sprints, that would be in real trouble here, would be the obstruction police. But when it comes to endangerment, it's on the brink. I'd say that the only reason that Pogacar wasn't endangered is because he chooses to break there.
Yeah. To me, I really think the gap was already pretty much closed as he's jumping into it. And I really think there wasn't that much space there, and he knew he was taking a risk. He wants to go the shortest way around. Demare's also pulling off after his lead out, opening up the space for Gaudu. We do see lead outs, they have to move off somewhere. I think, and Pogacar's, his mask slips a little bit after the intermediate sprint, like it did after RVV last year when he had a few words to say to Demare and then Van Baarle last year. But then he goes back to, I think, the interview after the stage. I haven't listened to it yet, but I hope they asked him about it. Maybe Luke can bring that up if he sees that, and we can talk about it in a second. But yeah, I think this is not, to me, in the same realms as Quickstep Baloise Benji.
Yeah, no, not at all. That was next level, trying to block someone with the real danger of crashing them out. While here, that danger is not 100% there. There's a factor that's an uphill sprint. Maybe that does something, lower speed and so forth. In my head, that shouldn't have the biggest influence either. But it does change the factor. I would say that UCI would never do something about this. And
No.
I don't mind necessarily, but it's a cheeky move and a bit sketchy in my book. And the question is, let's say that it would be penalized. Gaudu wouldn't get penalized anyway, so it wouldn't matter too much. It would only potentially give 2 more seconds to Pogacar if they scrap Demare from there.
That's the thing. You apply the sanction to Demare, Gaudu gets away scot-free. That was the problem with, because Schmidt in Baloise, he didn't really do anything wrong, but it was his Quickstep teammates last year. And so that's the problem with it. I do think the really big thing is Gaudu takes 6 seconds or 4 seconds, and he's gone from 10 seconds to 6 seconds. And so Luke said Pogacar put the blame on himself. He said he says he should have gone via the other way. He did note that Demare saw him and closed him. So kind of what we were saying. Like, he knew that it was a risk that it might happen. Demare knew what he was doing and what was going to happen. Everyone knew what was going to happen. Pogacar tried his luck, but he also was like, yeah, but he also closed me. So, I mean, yeah, it is what it is.